All right, guys, let's make a start. Today we are talking about delivering quality Drupal and how we do things at Annex and how quality assurance is built into our projects. I guess first things, why testers as a role, and we're hearing about AI disruption and people losing their jobs on less roles. But I think in that context, having someone whose job it is just to be the custodian of quality and keep things on track is even more important. I think as we keep going, then this role is definitely going to be standing out. And from our work, a government perspective, they always want to see results of testing and that we've stuck to the things we said we'd do, that we've got that audit trail of great results, and we've met accessibility standards and all those sort of things. So I think AI is definitely going to change the way we work, or it already has, but there's always going to be a space for someone whose role it is to look after quality and keep an eye on that stuff. All right. Tim's going to introduce us. I'm going to talk about delivering quality and how quality assurance influences all the work that I do and since I've been a tester and then into delivery work. Matt's going to talk about shifting left, and Tam's going to come back with tools and techniques and what we're doing day to day. Tam?
Hi, so as you can see, I'm Tam, this is Quinn. This is Matt. And now you can hear me. And we're all were or have been or currently are testers at Annex. So we've all come to testing from different backgrounds or industries. Quinn brought a lot of great project management experience. Matt brought some quality assurance experience from a different industry. And I used to be a developer, so I brought a lot of experience in actually creating the defects. So we all came together to evolve our quality and testing process at Annex. As you can see, ISTQB International, hang on, I've written this down. International Software Testing Qualifications Board, certified testers. We all got a foundation level certification so that we would have a common baseline and we could give clients the confidence that we were following best practices. So I'll hand back over to Quinn.
Thanks, Tam. All right, you can see over the last 5 years my progression at Annex here, and the various headshots over that time. When I started testing, young and carefree, obviously progressed into delivery management, and testing was a great baseline. Lots of project management experience previously, but QA was a great baseline for coming in as a delivery manager and having those skills. And I often, even now, I'm dual role delivery and tester on a project. So and it definitely influenced the way I've gone about delivery with Drupal projects. Then I sort of moved into the support lead role, and you can see everything's fine, and that did age me quite a lot. And if you look at Brooke, who's now our new support lead at the moment, you'll see the same look on her face a lot of the time. And then, but again, quality background, constantly testing little features, things moving quickly and all the time. So that was a great skill to have. And then into partnerships leads today, obviously I had a haircut for this event, but I know that we've got all these quality processes. So if I'm selling Annex as a product and what we do, I know these guys are testing rigorously and that we're putting out good quality work. All right, so delivering a quality product, that's what we sort of think about. We do some testing and, hopefully there's no bugs, and that's what we want. But I'm thinking more about how QA influences the whole team, how that influence transfers to the stakeholders. Definitely, as I said, government clients, they want that reassurance, they want to know that everything is going to be right. It'll be great when it's finished. They want to know that that stuff's happening. So, and influencing team dynamic and relationships. So having not just good quality work, but the way we work together being quality and dynamics, devs, testers, everyone sort of on the same page is great in how we do it. All right, so keeping it simple, definitely something I like to apply to everything that I can. And when I think keep it simple, stupid, I thought of Bear Grylls and, obviously delivering a Drupal project is very adventurous. So there's a lot of similarities between abseiling down a waterfall and, delivering a project. But so we try and keep it simple, and this is what I'm sort of talking about. I always like a simple Kanban board. I hate to look at a list of work. I hate Scrum teams where everyone's staring at a list of backlog items and that sort of thing. I think it's super simple to work through a Kanban board if you've got fantastic user stories. And then you apply a great test strategy, a definition of done that's simple and everyone's agreed to. And you get that PO review column and the product owner is happy just to call that thing finished. I think probably everyone here has worked on projects where we say it's ready and then the product owner says, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. But well-written user stories and you cover all that stuff off. And it really is simple and enjoyable. All right, different stuff we've worked on as a QA team on Annex's projects. Bryn doesn't really show up. He just mentioned gradient borders, and there's his gradient borders on AER a few years back. But that was a D9 Drupal PAS site, and I think the tool at the center of that site, there was around over 1,000 different possible scenarios and result sets you could get going through a sort of complex custom web form. So there was a lot of testing. So there was a fortnight with 10 stakeholder side volunteers, and we tested sort of 200 to 300 different scenarios in that sample size. Cypress tests and a few things built in that we could then go back, and 18 months later, someone changed content and broke it somewhere. So the bottom one, safe work data, it was the exact opposite, 6 weeks, but testing built in and 100% accessibility when we finished. So it's big and small Drupal, lots of GovCMS SaaS sites, but lots of Drupal PAS generally hosted on Upsun. But Matt is going to tell us more about I Can Study.
Okay. Thanks, Quinn. Shift left, what is it? It's a software development strategy that moves testing and quality assurance earlier into the development lifecycle. At Annex, we try to use this strategy on all our projects where possible. We're going to talk to you about I Can Study and where we use this strategy, and I personally think we took it to the peak of efficiency. So I Can Study. Their problem with their existing system was it was not scalable and it was patched together. So the plan was to rebuild their sales site and their learning experience platform with Drupal at its core. I was brought on early in the discovery phase and worked closely with the UX UI designers, learning how the old system worked and mapping the user flows and becoming the go-to person for this information. Being involved in the early discussions with the client and how the developers were going to make it all work, and my understanding of the old system and the user flows gave me an amazing understanding of the project. So with this team, as I found issues, I just messaged them on Slack. If they fixed it before I finished testing, I'd check the fix. If not, I just like to raise individual issues in comments, but I also like to try and pinpoint exactly where the issue is and what the issue is, instead of being a bit vague and going, oh, you know, this button doesn't match design. Just to make it easier for the devs to not context switch so much. And I was lucky that I had a great working relationship with the devs, and they were happy to work this way and not kill me. With this, I took an average of story points for the 5 sprints, and we're averaging 240 story points as our velocity. But this was a private client and not government. So it was time is money. So he wanted to increase the velocity. But increasing velocity and maintaining quality is a tricky balance. So I started working even closer with the devs. One more. Yeah. So the devs would start to build the functionality or the workflows and push it up to dev. And I would go through and verify the workflows or the functionality, match the AC, why they started to polish the UI. This way they could fix any issues quite easily and not have to change context. So by the time it was pushed to the test environment, I was just verifying the polished UI matched the designs. And at this point, the devs had a lot of trust in me that they would just push work across and let me catch all the small things, just to keep it flowing. So I took an average of story points from 5 sprints working this way, and we managed to increase our velocity by 60 story points. Keeping in mind this will not work on every project, we were lucky we had a product owner that could make decisions effectively on the spot or within half an hour, not your typical government where a week, maybe 2. And I just got a testimony from Justin. This project was complex, novel and fast-paced. Annex delivered to my extreme high standards, guiding us through challenges with rapid solutions and clear communication. The team's experience and agile management principles have influenced our own company processes. And now I'm just going to hand over to Tams to talk about the tools that we use.
So I'm going to tell you about some of the tools and techniques that we use to achieve the excellent quality and efficiency that Matt just spoke about. So there's a lot of different types of testing that you might want to consider, but today I'm just going to cover 3 that you'll want on all of your Drupal projects. You'll want functional testing, make sure it works. Cross-browser testing, make sure it works on the device that your user is actually using. And accessibility testing, make sure it works for as many people as possible, even if they have a disability. On top of that, I'm also going to hand over to these guys to tell you some of our more advanced techniques as well. But first, how do we even keep track of what we're testing? As Quinn said, keep it simple. Excel, that's the only tool you need. That's pretty much the end of the talk. The end. But this is where we started out at Annex. Keeping things simple, we started out using Excel for our test management. So test management is just keeping track of everything that you plan to test and everything that's been tested, writing test cases in there, which are step-by-step instructions of what to do and what the expected result is. But using Excel, you're going to run into some issues with traceability with your user stories, repetitive test cases, and just generally keeping track of things. So we moved on to using an add-on for Jira called Zephyr Scale. It's from SmartBear. We were already using Jira for our project management, and so Zephyr Scale integrates really nicely with that, provides traceability between your acceptance criteria, your test cases, and your defects. Zephyr Scale provides some features that helps make our testing more efficient, such as you can organize your test cases into test plans and test cycles. You can call to one test from another, so if you've got the same sequence of steps that appear in multiple test cases, you don't need to copy and paste that or rewrite. a little bit modular, which you would be used to if you were more software developer. And you've got parameterized tests, which is what I'm showing on the screen now, which is where you can run the same test steps with different parameters. A really common use case that we use for that is if you want to run the same test steps on different browsers, and perhaps there might be a layout difference or something like that across the different browsers that you're expecting, you can just write that once and then execute it like so. If you run into a defect, you can also raise that directly from the test execution, as we're sort of showing here. So yeah, that's some of the features that make writing test cases a little bit more efficient and keeping track of what we're testing a little bit more efficient. Next thing I want to talk about is cross-browser testing with Browser Stack. There's a lot of different tools under the Browser Stack umbrella, but what's showing here is the live tool. It gives you access to real browsers on real devices rather than emulators, so you have a little bit more assurance that how it is working is how it's really going to work on the actual device without needing to own one of every single device in existence, which would be a real pain. So yeah, very thankful for Browser Stack. So you might be wondering, how do we know what browsers we want to test on? Sometimes if you've got an existing website, you might have some nice existing analytics from that, so you can see what kind of users are already coming to the site, what browsers they're already coming on. But if it's a brand new site or you just don't know, there's a site called Stat Counter that can give you a breakdown by country or region, what the most common browsers and devices are in that area. Yep, and so now I'll hand back to Quinn for some of the exciting stuff.
Again, I don't know that's that exciting, but it is simple. Browser Stack's a great example that they're using physical devices, and it's a worthwhile subscription because we're getting something that we can't just replace with software, right? But they've got all these SaaS add-ons which we don't use any of, and maybe they invested too much money doing that. But for me, writing tests is super time consuming. But they've got to be written, they've got to be recorded. If you've got, again, great user stories, it's very easy to use IA to create Zephyr scale-ready tests. So certainly do that, but again, if the user story doesn't have every detail you need, then you're not going to have a test suite that suits. But that's certainly taken something that take hours into minutes. So I definitely do that. I think Matt's taken it a little bit further.
Yeah. So having the chat about, whacking a prompt into ChatGPT and getting it to spit out a CSV to upload it, I'm like, surely with like Cursor, for example, I can make this a lot easier. So what I've done is created a couple of skills at the moment where I can pull down the tickets that are in tests under my name, depending on how you want to configure it. It comes down. I can then generate 3 to 6 test cases per ticket, depending on what we're testing. And then I've got another skill that pushes it back up, but it pushes it back up into Zephyr Scale, but then it links me as the owner, puts it in draft, and it will link it back to the original ticket so we don't have that traceability issue. Because the biggest time kill for us is literally writing test cases all the time, where doing this then gives us more time actually double checking and making sure things are working on the site properly. Yeah.
Like right now.
So yeah.
Right. Don't touch anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, back to you, Tam.
And the final thing I'll talk about is accessibility testing. So both Australian and New Zealand government have some targets for the websites that accessibility targets that they want to meet. That's the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines WCAG 2.2 level AA. So yeah, but it is also pretty important for any site. I just got a screenshot of some of the guidelines. There's a real lot of guidelines. So the documentation's pretty good, but tools can definitely help us. So we routinely run some accessibility tests. We typically use 2 or more browser extensions. We navigate using only the keyboard. We try at least one screen reader, and we zoom in on the page and change the text size just to make sure all the layout's going to look good at different zoom lengths. So some of the browser extensions that we use, these are for Chrome. I've got Lighthouse and Wave there. There's also an Axe one that's pretty popular. Axe also can be used by the command line, so you can use that in any automated tests if you want to. And yesterday I was lucky enough to go to a talk from Jason about Quack, which I'm really keen to check out. That's another one that you can use from the command line. My favourite manual test to do is the other one that you can see on the screen there, is using the keyboard to navigate. In this example, I'm using a Chrome extension called Accessibility Insights for Web that can give you a visual indication of where the tab order goes as you're tabbing through the page. So keyboard testing is pretty important because I find it'll come up with a lot of other issues as well. If it's not accessible to the keyboard, it's probably also not accessible to a screen reader or other assistive technologies. Yep, so that brings me on to screen readers. Similarly with the browsers, you might be wondering, well, how do you target what screen reader and browser combinations you want to test on? Because just like different browsers, there can be different quirks with the way that different screen readers behave on different browsers. So there's an organisation called WebAIM. They regularly come out with a screen reader user survey that gives really great statistics about which screen readers are trending over time and what browsers people are using them with. So you can target a little bit better which ones that you want to test on. I've also just got some screenshots of using VoiceOver, which is the built-in one on Mac. It can give you a little visual box of what's being read out by the screen reader. Like this one's just reading out a heading level, so things like that help people orientate themselves with where they are on the page. And then another one of our favourite tool, Browser Stack. It's not an ad for Browser Stack. But they do have some screen readers built in as well, so you don't need to own one of every device, one of every browser, and one of every screen reader that exists, so that's really nice. So yeah, you've heard about shift left, you've heard about whole of project quality, and you've heard of some of the tools that we use. Any questions?
Any questions? Great.
Yeah. So this is great. We do a lot of automated testing and build tests at the developer level and then pass over to the client. And I think that's where it gets nice and manual that the client gets involved in. But the problem we have is like major release testing. So say 15 tickets go to dev, go over to the client. They've got a list of things to try out in the ticket and then do a big regression test for the release. There's 400 ways you could probably improve that individually, but is there, for a client that doesn't have a structured, like this level of implementation for testing, to just reduce the overall overhead? Because I guess what happens is we come to a release next Thursday, there's a whole bunch of overhead for that client to do ahead of time, and it's alongside their normal job. So how would you tackle that and de-risk that for a client that doesn't really have any of these tools right now, like working back from?
So that can.
Yeah. Can you hire a tester?
If you need to, talk to Quinn.
That's a great solution.
I mean, yeah, I guess otherwise, are you...
I'm more talking about on the client's side, like that sort of final approval and that regression piece, like not putting it all on one person, helping them with that process.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that bit at the start you have with the Excel spreadsheet, that's kind of where they're at now, but it is a bit intimidating. So anything to do to improve that process.
And you really want to sort of speed up that process.
Within reason.
Yeah. Can you do like a demo and a walkthrough with them? I've had some success with that with some clients where we get a couple of the really key subject matter experts in the room and people who can approve things and that kind of thing. And like I as a tester would like prepare test cases, but I would just run through it with them, like this is all the new functionality and that kind of thing, to give them a little bit more confidence. Do you think that?
Yeah, definitely. Like more hand holding. It's key that everyone's very busy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think those first points, that Tim had to just, just how does it work? So it's got to be accessible. Give them some access. I know, yeah, my clients love seeing, oh, you're using these tools, and then suddenly, if they can, for government clients, they're installing browser extensions and playing with that stuff. And, the documentation and all those things that we talked about, that, often that takes more time than the doing that stuff and just the clicking around. So yeah, I think empowering them with that baseline, hey, here's the 3 or 4 things we want you to look at, does it work, the stuff you've already been thinking about. Is it accessible, or do you want to make sure that we've made it accessible, and and does it work for whatever platform you want to use it on? Is the higher level for them. But yeah, testers have a tester on your project.
Or going off that, effectively now you guys can build the skills if you had something like there for scale, and because you've already got all the automations in the background, you could then have that go, all right, we're ready for this. Create these test cases for the client, and that way they could run through and note whatever, add screenshots type of thing, and then it's all tracked and it's not getting lost in a spreadsheet or a chat or emails. And then it's not that much extra time because we're at the point where you just get an agent to run it, and that could be the next step type of thing. And then they've got a step-by-step of what they need to do. And then you have your data that, we want you to sign in. Here's all the logins, try them. Do it wrong, try and break things. That's my favorite. But yeah, like just having that visibility and then having the scripts and just handing it over could be another step as well.
Yeah, and then that your AC, your grade AC that you've written, like that's the only work you're really doing. The rest of it's automated, and you don't have to worry about going through those test steps and clicking things, but in the background there'll be 200-300 test cases sitting there that the clients can refer back to whenever they want to, just manually.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I have a question. Can you comment on, like we've all had experiences where as developers or designers or testers, we've gone into an existing legacy situation and gone, oh dear God. And you don't have enough, you've got a real prioritization thing, like can we do a major version upgrade? Can we keep it from crashing? Can we secure these things? Like from your perspective, like what kind of key approaches do you think are good, like tactics to address, like this is not a greenfields project, in fact this is a horror show that no one has cared for 5 years and now it's out of the closet and I need to do dev and a whole bunch of other important things.
I can take this one. I was on a project where the similar thing, my devs had given me tickets, I'm like cool, started testing things, I'm like, had to keep going back to the ticket, I'm like, there's things that are broken and I don't like it, but we didn't touch it. So I had a chat with my delivery manager at the time. I was like, can we please make a list somewhere? So I went through and I effectively did an audit of the site, which saved us in the end because one of the clients was like, oh, this is broken. I was like, hang on. I went back to my original bug list that I made and I was like, well, no, sorry, that was already there. And I found it 3 months ago. And just having that proof to be like, it wasn't us, but if you want us to fix it, we can. So it was, having a backlog effectively of what we found in a legacy system.
Are you finding automated tools can speed up? Do you kind of doing that initial assessment kind of thing?
I'm getting to the point where I'm building this like a skill setup where I can just run it over pages. I'm still in the early stages of it because I'm a carpenter by trade, not a developer. I don't come from a technical background, so for me, like everybody's going, you know, run an agent, and they let it do whatever. Every time it does something for me, I'm like, what the hell have you done? And I go through and read it, so I'm learning as I'm doing it. So, yeah. Yep, and some days it breaks my brain of what it's trying to do, and I'm like, but why? So, I don't know if you guys got anything else to that? No? Oh.
Good.
All right, we're at time, so another round of applause.